Question: what is it like to wake up in a community, a spiritual community? Good question. It's interesting, so to say the least. It can be quite difficult, but at the same time, because of the self-realization, it's also very liberating. But how does liberation fit in with your old way of practicing spirituality? And the truth is, you don't practice the same spirituality anymore. If I woke up in a community whereby people were working certain principles, and as soon as the awakening occurred, for me, there was no longer working these principles, because what had awakened was already perfect. It didn't need anything added to it or taken from it. There's nothing you could take from it or add to it. It was absolutely perfect. So I came away from one particular word that was often bounded about, often used in the community that I was part of, and that is the word process. And I still believe that it's still a popular word even to this day, because the awakening for me occurred 25 years ago. So even today, the word process is often used when someone is triggered, or if someone is looking at something in themselves or working through something. They often say they're in process. And I came away from that immediately, because the word process doesn't apply to self-realization. This is one of the things that differentiates post-awakened integration to pre-awakening integration. There's no process. Of course, when you're pre-awakening, when you're still operating from a mental and emotional basis of observation in relation to your body, all of that is looking for a type of congruence. You're looking for a type of congruence whereby what you feel in the body is being raised up to a conscious level, where you can then suddenly say, oh, this is what I'm feeling. I don't have to act that out. I can let go of that. I can instead start choosing, the choice is mine to behave in a different way. So this is the process that I was part of before the awakening, and very healthy process, and very wonderful in the way that I learned to develop new behaviors that weren't destructive to myself or other people. So there was a growing wellness in my psyche, in the way that I worked them. But after the awakening, all that changed. You go to another level. It's just another level. That's all. It's a different level. It's not like a high one. Well, it is a high level, but it's not. Doesn't make you better than anyone. But if anything, it makes you more compassionate, because you realize, you only know what you know, and also being given self-realization was because it's not to do with anything I did. It occurs by grace. So again, there's a humility there, you see. So, but the difference was, instead of process, I realized it was a matter of continual dissolution. So if anything, you go from process to dissolution. And the difference being is that there's no one working the principles. What it is by remaining as what awakened, remaining the witness, you come to see that the witness that awakens to its essential nature, which is, as we know, is formless, is absolute, whatever you want to call it. It's prior the condition of what's arising. And in that sense, it's the true condition of reality. This witness knows non-locality. It knows it's the root source of all appearance. So it's very different. So in that sense, you're not anyone. You're not a person working on a person. You don't have a personal sense of working on yourself. You have a non-personal opening that, in knowing the absolute, is a meditation in itself, and in remaining at the root of anything appearing is the very seeing, being the experience of anything that arises. So there is only this consciousness. There's no process. And dissolution is whereby you'll still see that a lot of patterning, even after the awakening, there's a lot of patterning in your mental, emotional, physical structure, whereby there's still pockets of tension that kind of align to the nervous system, whereby signals go to the mind to claim the experience of the body. So that happens, but even as awareness, you remain at the root of that, and you don't see that as other. So what happens then is that whatever tension there is to maintain a formation of personal experience, it cannot exist for too long if you remain at the root. You identify yourself as awareness in relation to itself. It starts to then undo, or it just begins to go through a process of dissolution, whereby then the patterns that the tension was caught up in, the patterns themselves, when freed from this tension, begin to associate to the true root of experience, which is consciousness. And this is a process of dissolution. This is not a process of processing itself. It's not someone in process. It's just a process of dissolution where no one's actually doing it. So it changes a lot, really. Changes a lot, quite starkly. At the moment, I'm writing a book on this very process. Because when awakening occurred for me, I was heavily in a spiritual community, working spiritual principles, and I remember it was quite sudden. The realization was quite sudden that there is no process, there is no personal sense working on one's issues. There is just, there is that process is not something that aligns to one's essential nature. One's essential nature is just the root source of all that, and remaining as the root source, you allow for dissolution. That's how it is. There we are. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?